The womb is not just a biological organ, it is the original altar. Before temples were built, before priests spoke prophecy, before history was written, the womb held the mystery of life, of death, of rebirth. Across African spiritual traditions, the womb has always been seen not merely as a place of conception, but as a cosmic gateway, a divine portal where spirit meets flesh. But if the womb is sacred, why have we been taught to forget? Why have women been taught to carry shame, silence, and sickness within the very space that births nations? This video will peel back the layers of amnesia and trauma. We will journey deep into the ancient African systems that revered the feminine, not as secondary, but as central. Systems where the womb was a source of intuitive power, ancestral memory, and spiritual command. We'll explore questions that may never have been answered in mainstream narratives. What does it mean to hold spiritual power in your womb? How did African ancestors use ritual and ceremony to heal the feminine body? What wisdom have we lost in the shadow of colonial disruption, and how do we reclaim it? This is not just a history lesson. It is an invitation to remember the songs your grandmothers sang as they bathed in sacred rivers, to remember the scent of healing herbs burning in clay pots, the rhythm of drums that mirrored the heartbeat of the earth. To remember that the feminine body is not broken, it is ancient, intelligent, and sacred beyond words. The womb is where creativity brews, not only in the form of children, but in ideas, dreams, visions. It is where your spirit communicates through intuition. When in harmony, it can whisper truth louder than any voice outside you. It is the archive of your becoming, your birthing, your rising. So whether you're reconnecting with your lineage, healing generational wounds, or simply curious, this is for you. For the women who were silenced, for the traditions nearly forgotten, for the sacred energy that refuses to die. The womb remembers, and today we begin to listen. In African cosmology, the womb is not a passive space. It is the original source, the seat of divine creation. It is no accident that many creation myths across the continent begin not with a male god wielding power, but with a feminine force birthing life into existence from darkness, water, or silence. Among the Yoruba people, the goddess Shun represents fertility, femininity, and the sacred rivers, her energy tied to love, creativity, and the ability to manifest life. Shun is often evoked in ceremonies seeking not only children, but abundance, intuition, and balance. In the sacred Ifa tradition, her essence flows like water, soft yet unyielding, healing yet transformative. Her womb is not just biological, it is energetic, a channel of divine orchestration. The Dogon people of Mali speak of the cosmic egg, the Po, from which all existence emerged. This egg is womb-like, a contained, sacred void that holds the potential of everything before it bursts into form. It is no coincidence that this imagery mimics the uterus, an incubator for possibility. In ancient Kemet, now Egypt, the goddess Nut was the sky herself, arching over the earth, giving birth to the sun each morning. Her body, often depicted with stars along her dark skin, was seen as the great womb of the cosmos, and beneath her Jeb, the earth god, lay in reverence. In this cosmology, the feminine body held the heavens, the seasons, the cycles. These metaphors were not just stories, they were sacred blueprints, maps of how to live, honor, and care for the life-giving forces. When a woman became pregnant, it was not simply biology, it was seen as a spiritual initiation. Her body became the container of ancestral return. Elders and spiritualists would hold ceremonies to honor the spirit of the incoming child. And the womb was treated with herbs, prayer, sound, and protection. Even menstruation was not considered unclean, as later colonial religions would teach, but as a time of heightened intuition and sacred power. Some tribes would guide women to retreat into huts or rivers during their cycles, not in shame, but for purification and deeper spiritual connection. These spaces became sanctuaries, places to dream, to receive messages, to connect with the divine feminine uninterrupted. The womb in African cosmology was not only the space where life enters, it was the space where power rests. Across the Congo Basin, midwives known as Ngangas used herbs, chants, and spirit invocation to align the energy of the womb with that of the ancestors. They believed that any physical illness in the womb stemmed first from a spiritual misalignment, disconnection from purpose, suppressed emotions, ancestral disturbance. Healing was holistic, emotional, communal, ritualistic. The drums played in birthing ceremonies mimicked the heartbeat of the child in the womb. The chants echoed ancestral songs. The rhythm was medicine, the dance was devotion. Through movement, women were taught to open, to release, to receive, not just children, but spiritual downloads. The womb was also central to initiation. Among the Dagara people of Burkina Faso, young girls would undergo spiritual training not to suppress their femininity, but to awaken it. The womb was presented as a compass, a center for divine knowing. Women were trained in dream work, divination, and storytelling, tools to channel the knowledge encoded in their bodies. And this reverence wasn't limited to women alone. Men were also taught to honor the womb, to understand its power. In balanced societies, men were not threatened by feminine divinity. They served it, protected it, amplified it. Spiritual men worked alongside women in rituals, holding the sacred space as guardians, not oppressors. Even the earth itself was spoken of as a living womb, constantly gestating seasons, rebirthing life, mirroring the cycles within women. African cosmology is cyclical, not linear. Birth, death, and rebirth are seen as transitions within a grand spiral. And at the center of that spiral is the womb, ever present, ever sacred. In African cosmology, the womb is a multi-dimensional space. It is physical, energetic, ancestral, cosmic. It is the place where spirit slows down enough to become matter. And in honoring the womb, people were also honoring the earth, the seasons, the stars, and ultimately themselves. It was all connected. It was never meant to be separated. And yet much of this has been lost, not erased entirely, but buried. Buried beneath shame, colonization, Western medicine, and patriarchal religion. But it still lives, in stories, in songs, in dreams, in your own body. Because the womb remembers, and now we begin to awaken what it never forgot. There was a time when women were seen as walking temples, living altars who carried not only life, but law, leadership, and lineage. But that time was interrupted. When colonial forces arrived in Africa, they brought with them foreign religions, foreign medicine, and foreign views of the body, especially the female body. Systems that once celebrated menstruation, fertility, and childbirth as sacred became labeled as primitive, sinful, or dirty. Midwives became outcasts. Priestesses were silenced. Ancestral rituals were outlawed. What was once sacred became secret. And in that silence, something was lost. The colonial project was not just about land or gold. It was about control. Control of bodies, control of minds, and most dangerously, control of memory. By disconnecting women from their wombs, colonial powers disrupted the lineage of wisdom passed from mother to daughter for generations. Christian missionaries taught women to cover their bodies, to distrust their intuition, to fear their sensuality. Islam, where misinterpreted, imposed modesty that erased the visibility of feminine leadership. Western medicine displaced traditional healers, branding them as witches, even though their remedies had healed communities for centuries. The results? Womb trauma increased, generational wounds deepened, and women began to internalize the idea that their power was shameful. And yet, despite this violence, something remained. Women still remembered in whispers, in songs sung softly to daughters, in recipes passed down, in the quiet gathering around fire pits, in dreams. But the psychological scars ran deep. Women began to suffer in silence, carrying fibroids, endometriosis, infertility, and menstrual pain without understanding the spiritual roots. The disconnection wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. When you forget that your body is sacred, you forget how to care for it as a temple. Yet the body doesn't forget. The womb stores memory of joy, of trauma, of ecstasy, of betrayal. And for centuries, wombs across Africa and the diaspora have been crying out for reconnection, for rhythm, for ritual, for restoration. This isn't just history, it's lived reality. And now, more than ever, the time has come to reclaim what was buried, to unearth the wisdom, the ceremonies, the sacred systems that once held the feminine in high regard. Because healing begins with remembering, and remembering begins with truth. To heal the womb is to remember the practices that once honored it. Across Africa, ancestral healing is not just spiritual, it is deeply embodied. It lives in movement, in earth, in breath. And when a woman begins to reclaim her womb, she is not just healing herself, she is calling her bloodline back into harmony. One of the most potent tools in African womb healing is the use of herbs. Leaves, roots, and flowers are not mere plants. They are living spirits, allies in the work of cleansing and awakening. Yoni steams, infusions, and womb massages have long been used by herbalists and grandmothers to relieve pain, regulate cycles, and reconnect women to the earth's intelligence. Then there is sound, another ancient tool. Chants, songs, and invocations are not just medicinal. In many cultures, womb healers sing to the belly, using vibration to activate stagnant energy and awaken the sleeping memory within. Drumming, too, is a language. It mimics the pulse of life in the womb and calls forth ancestral presence. Movement is medicine. In traditional African dance, the hips are the center of expression. Circular, grounded, fluid, these movements are more than performance. They are activation. Through dance, women express grief, joy, power, and release. They shake loose the emotional debris that has settled in their wombs, and in doing so, open space for intuition and clarity. And there is storytelling. Elders once told tales that weren't just entertainment, they were coded with wisdom. Through myths and parables, girls learned about their cycles, about seduction and boundaries, about spiritual dreams and fertility. These stories carried archetypes that connected women to the goddesses within them. Reclaiming womb power also means re-establishing the role of priestesses, midwives, and spiritual guides. These were women trained not just in birth, but in vision. They presided over rites of passage, guided girls into womanhood, and helped mothers communicate with the soul of their unborn children. Their absence in modern life has left many women spiritually uninitiated, walking through life with wisdom locked inside them. Today, the call to return is growing louder. Women across the diaspora are gathering in sister circles, relearning the herbs, the chants, the sacred dances. They are building altars in their homes, small spaces with candles, flowers, womb symbols, and ancestral offerings. They are tracking their cycles not just biologically, but spiritually, paying attention to when they feel most intuitive, when their dreams intensify, when old wounds surface. Reclaiming womb power is not a trend, it is a spiritual revolution. It means listening to your body when it whispers and honoring it before it screams. It means treating your cycle not as an inconvenience, but as a divine compass. It means speaking life into your womb, praying into it, pouring love into the space where your power lives. To reclaim is to remember, and to remember is to return to yourself. The womb is not only a vessel for physical birth, it is a spiritual antenna, a portal that tunes into frequencies beyond the five senses. In African spiritual systems, the womb is often described as the seat of intuition, dreaming, and ancestral dialogue. It is the place where messages are received long before they reach the conscious mind. In many traditions, it was known, when a woman's womb is clear, her inner voice becomes unmistakable. Her decisions flow from deep knowing rather than doubt. Her dreams become vivid, often prophetic. Her body pulses with subtle guidance. Go here, wait now, speak this, say nothing. This kind of guidance is not accidental. It is the result of spiritual hygiene. To access womb intuition, women were taught to create space through silence, fasting, baths, and breath. Time alone in nature, time in water, time with drums. These practices weren't random. They were designed to clear the noise of the world so that the voice of the ancestors could come through. The womb was seen as a temple for the unseen. When you light a candle at your altar and sit in stillness, it is not just your mind that listens, it is your womb. When you journal after your cycle begins, you may find that your pen moves with truths your mouth has never spoken. When you dream during your bleeding days, you may wake with insights that feel more real than waking life. African women knew this. That's why menstruation was not merely physical, it was a monthly ceremony, a time to withdraw, to fast, to dream, to cleanse, to receive. Some tribes even believed that during this time, a woman could commune with the ancestors more easily because her body was closest to the spirit realm. This sacred portal wasn't just for women to use personally, it was a tool of leadership. Priestesses would receive visions about community decisions, incoming challenges, or spiritual messages directly from their womb consciousness. Their dreams were not dismissed, they were consulted. Even today you may have felt it, that deep knowing in your belly when something isn't right, or the butterflies that precede a breakthrough, or the heaviness when your boundaries are crossed. That is your womb speaking. But after years of disconnect, we have to tune in again. Breathwork, meditation, belly massage, intentional movement, all help us return to the womb's voice. Sitting with your hand over your lower belly and simply asking, "What do you need to tell me?" can be a doorway into profound awakening. The more we listen, the more we hear. The more we trust, the more is revealed. Your womb is not just yours, it is a channel of memory, a spiritual compass, a living altar of truth. And the ancestors are always speaking. The question is, are we quiet enough to hear? In today's world, with its fast pace and constant noise, many women are seeking ways to reconnect with their bodies, to find stillness, meaning, and spiritual grounding. And while the ancient temples and village rituals may no longer surround us, the essence of African womb wisdom still breathes. It has not vanished, it has adapted. It lives in the everyday, waiting for us to remember. Modern womb healing is not about replicating traditions perfectly. It's about honoring the spirit of those traditions in a way that aligns with the lives we live now. You don't need a priestess to tell you your body is sacred. You already know, and that knowing is your power. One of the simplest and most powerful practices is creating a womb altar. This can be as modest as a candle, a bowl of water, a red cloth, and a flower. It is a space to sit, to reflect, to remember, a place where you can cry, journal, meditate, or just be. The altar becomes a physical reminder of your inner sacredness, a return to reverence. Cycle tracking is another vital ritual, understanding the emotional, spiritual, and energetic rhythms of your menstrual phases. Some women journal every day of their cycle, noting when they feel most creative, when they feel inward, when they feel intuitive. Over time, patterns emerge. The womb begins to speak. Yoni steaming, rooted in herbal African traditions, is resurging globally. Sitting over warm, herbal infusions allows heat and plant medicine to enter the body gently, releasing tension, supporting detox, and inviting emotional release. It's not just physical care, it's a spiritual reset. Sacred movement, especially dance that focuses on the hips and pelvis, is another powerful method. Whether it's traditional West African dance or just letting yourself move freely to drum beats in your living room, this reconnects you to your sensuality, to joy, to life force. And of course, there's the power of community. Women gathering in circles, online or in person, to share stories, hold space, cry, and laugh. This modern sisterhood echoes the fireside gatherings of the past. The village may have shifted, but the healing is still real. These rituals are not trends. They are returns to earth, returns to rhythm, returns to self. The womb remembers when we return with intention. And even in the modern world, healing is always just a breath, a drumbeat, or a whisper away. The womb is not just an organ, it is an oracle, a sanctuary of ancient power encoded with memory, mystery, and magic. Across the landscapes of Africa, our ancestors knew this. They sang to it, danced for it, protected it, and prayed with it. They understood that the health of a community was tied to the reverence of the feminine, and the feminine begins in the womb. But time and trauma sought to make us forget. Colonialism, religion, violence, shame, they all worked to sever the thread. And yet the thread was never truly cut. It was only buried. Today we dig, we reclaim, we rise. We remember the songs whispered during menstruation. We remember the plants our grandmothers boiled. We remember the stories coded with sacred truths. We remember that the womb is not just a physical space, it is a spiritual center, an altar that connects us to ourselves, our lineage, and the divine. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know every tradition. You only need to start listening again. Your body already remembers the way. The healing is already within you. So if this video stirred something in you, an ache, a memory, a call, honor that. Journal it, dance it, cry it, share it, because this is how we heal. Not all at once, but moment by moment, womb by womb, truth by truth. Thank you for walking this sacred journey with me. If this message resonated, subscribe for more content rooted in ancestral wisdom. Like the video, share it with your sisters, and leave a comment about how you're reclaiming your sacred feminine. And don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss the next sacred conversation. Until next time, trust your womb. She knows.